Hello, baby. Tonight, close your little eyes and take a deep breath because I'm going to tell you a very special story. It's called The Little Star's Dreamy Journey. It's a soft, quiet tale about a tiny star who didn't know what dreams were. And so one night, she decided to leave the sky and go find out. Along the way, she meets kind animals, magical creatures, and gentle winds, each showing her a little piece of what dreams are made of. Are you ready to float away with her? Once upon a time, far above the sleepy world, there was a very tiny star. She was smaller than all the other stars, so small, in fact, that even the moon sometimes forgot to say hello to her. Her name was Lumi. Lumi sparkled a little less brightly than the others, not because she wasn't special, but because she was always thinking. While the other stars twinkled and played tag across the sky, Lumi sat quietly near a moonbeam and looked down at the earth. Every night, she saw children closing their eyes, hugging their teddy bears, and slipping into dreams. But what were dreams? Were they fluffy? Were they shiny? Were they sweet like honey or soft like clouds? No one in the sky seemed to know. Dreams? The North Star had said when Lumi asked. Oh, little one, those belong to Earth. We just watch them. We shine above them. We don't go near them. But Lumi's curiosity only grew. Each evening, she watched bedtime windows flicker off, and she whispered little wishes down to the sleeping children. She loved seeing the way the night wrapped them in quiet. She loved the idea of dreams more than anything. One very gentle night, when the wind whispered nothing but lullabies and the clouds were thin as silk scarves, Lumi made a choice. She would go to Earth. She would leave the sky for a little while and find out what dreams were. She waited until the moon turned his face away and the starry sky became calm, almost still. She felt a little wobble in her belly. It wasn't fear, it was wonder. Quietly, slowly, she began to fall. Not like a shooting star, loud and blazing across the sky. No, Lumi floated, like a feather dropped from a cloud. She drifted past sleepy clouds, past the edge of sky, through cool mist and quiet air. As she fell, the world below grew closer. She saw rooftops and rivers, forests and fields, all soaked in soft blue moonlight. The earth was so big and round and slow-moving. It looked like it was breathing in sleep. Lumi landed, not with a crash or a burst, but like a snowflake. She touched down in a meadow surrounded by tall grass that swayed gently in the breeze. A few fireflies danced nearby, glowing like tiny cousins of stars. The ground was warm, as if the earth itself had been dreaming, and she had settled onto its cozy blanket. Hello, Lumi whispered. Is this where dreams live? A sleepy voice replied, maybe. Lumi turned her tiny light toward the voice and saw a rabbit curled under a leaf. His ears were tucked back, his nose twitching slowly. He looked like he'd been dreaming something very nice. Who are you? Asked Lumi gently. I'm Thistle, the rabbit said, blinking. You're very glowy. Are you a dream? No, Lumi said softly. I'm a star. I came down from the sky to find out what dreams are. Thistle yawned, a wide bunny yawn that wiggled his whole face. Dreams? Well, sometimes I dream about carrots that taste like strawberries, or running through a meadow that never ends, or floating, like you just did. That sounds lovely, said Lumi, but what makes it a dream? The rabbit thought for a while. It's like when your heart takes a nap and your mind makes a story, a warm, safe story that hugs you. Lumi glowed a little brighter. A warm, safe story, she repeated. That sounds beautiful. Thistle nodded slowly, already halfway back to sleep. If you're looking for more dreams, try the willow tree. She remembers everything. Lumi looked around. The meadow stretched into darkness, but far in the distance, a shape curved gently up into the sky. It shimmered slightly in the moonlight. Thank you, Thistle, she whispered. Came the reply, already covered in sleep. So Lumi floated forward, her soft light making little sparkles on the dew. Crickets chirped a lullaby from the grass, and an owl hooted once, low and kind. The air was filled with nighttime, that special quiet that only comes when the world is wrapped in sleep. When Lumi reached the willow tree, the wind had already curled into its branches like a blanket. The tree's long, silver-green leaves drifted like fingers brushing the ground. A gentle voice echoed from its trunk, slow and soft. I've been waiting for you, little star. Lumi blinked in surprise. You have? The willow tree's voice was low and wise, like pages turning in an old book. Of course, stars rarely visit Earth and never so gently. I felt you falling. You fell with questions. Yes, said Lumi. I want to know what dreams are. The tree swayed, its branches whispering. Dreams are pieces of memory, dusted with hope. They float in when eyes close, and they help hearts feel light. Sometimes they come from wishes, sometimes from feelings we don't have words for. Lumi listened with her whole glow. You carry dream light, you know, the willow tree continued. That's why you care. That's why the children make wishes on stars. Your kind was born from dreams once wished, and your light still remembers. Lumi felt a warmth rise in her, quiet and soft like a lullaby sung from far away. But if I'm made from dreams, she said, why don't I understand them? Because, the willow tree replied, knowing a thing and feeling a thing are not the same. You must gather dreams. Listen to them. Let them touch you. How? Lumi asked. The willow tree rustled its leaves. Go to the forest of sleep. Follow the breeze. Meet those who dream deeply. Only then will you understand. The branches stretched slowly downward, and a little path of glowing petals appeared on the grass. It led into the trees where shadows curled like kitten tails and fireflies blinked like sleepy thoughts. Lumi turned to the tree. Thank you. The willow swayed. Listen, not with your ears, but your heart. And with that, Lumi began her journey again, quiet, glowing, gentle into the forest, into the hush, into the dreams of the earth. The forest of sleep was unlike any place Lumi had ever seen from the sky. The trees there did not reach toward the stars as if to touch them. Instead, they curled inwards, hugging themselves gently, their leaves swaying slowly like they were breathing in time with the night. The air inside the forest was thick with quiet. Not the empty kind of quiet, but the soft, full kind, like the inside of a seashell pressed to your ear. Lumi floated just above the ground, her glow casting a pale silver light on the soft moss below. The path of glowing petals the willow tree had shown her still shimmered faintly, leading her through the forest. As she moved forward, the wind changed. It no longer whistled or sighed. It hummed, a low, lullaby hum that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. Tiny moths drifted around her, their wings dusted with sleep, and in the branches above, soft creatures stirred in nests, their dreams hanging in the air like invisible strings. Lumi could feel something strange beginning to happen inside her. Her light no longer just shined, it pulsed, gently, like a heartbeat. She didn't understand why, but it felt like her glow was listening. She came to a small clearing in the forest. In the center stood a curious creature, a fawn, no taller than a bush, with fur the color of toasted bread and eyes like pools of morning mist. He was curled on a patch of moss, one leg tucked under his chin, breathing slowly, deeply. Lumi paused, her voice barely louder than the rustling leaves. Hello? The fawn blinked slowly, as if waking from a beautiful dream. When he saw Lumi, his ears twitched once, then stilled. Oh, he said, his voice like the sound of brushing velvet. You're real. I think so, Lumi replied, unsure what else to say. I dreamed you, said the fawn with a soft smile. A floating light, gentle as night, you were dancing with butterflies made of fog. Lumi drifted closer, surprised. You dreamed of me? But I only just arrived. Dreams don't wait for time, said the fawn. They come from somewhere deeper. Lumi settled beside him, her light wrapping around the moss like a soft blanket. I came from the sky. I want to know what dreams are, what they feel like, what they mean. The fawn yawned, a soft flutter of his jaw. Sometimes, dreams are how our hearts speak when our mouths are quiet. When I sleep, I visit a place where the sun is always setting and the flowers sing. Do they really sing? Lumi asked, tilting her light curiously. In the dream, yes, and it feels true. Lumi thought about that. So dreams don't have to be real? The fawn stretched his legs lazily. No, but they feel real in the place where it matters. Lumi blinked slowly. Where is that? The fawn touched his chest lightly. Here. Lumi's light pulsed again. She didn't know if stars had hearts, but if they did, something inside hers had just nodded. Would you like to hear the flower song? The fawn asked. Oh yes, whispered Lumi. The fawn closed his eyes. A moment passed. Then he hummed, a tune so gentle, so quiet, it almost wasn't there. It was the kind of sound you'd hear between dreams, if you were still just barely awake. The melody curled through the clearing like fog on a lake, and as he hummed, tiny white blossoms bloomed all around him on the moss. Their petals opened without sound, stretching as though waking from the same dream. Lumi felt her light change, not brighter, not dimmer, but deeper. The fawn opened his eyes. That is how they sing, not with voices, with presence. Lumi whispered, "It's beautiful." "Dreams often are," said the fawn, "but not always. Some dreams carry sadness. Some bring fears. That's okay too. Feelings are visitors, just like you." Lumi floated quietly, letting his words settle. Then she said, "Will I find more dreams here?" "Follow the breeze," the fawn said, resting his head again. "It always knows where the dreams gather." Lumi looked up. The trees above her gently leaned to one side, their leaves trembling as though pointing. A small trail of fireflies blinked slowly into view, dancing one by one into the deeper forest. She thanked the fawn with a soft flicker of light, then followed the glowing path. The forest changed as she moved. The moss became softer, like clouds underfoot. The trees widened, their trunks wrapped in vines that whispered stories in sleep speak. Lumi didn't understand the words, but she felt them, like warm fingers brushing her glow. She passed a stream that hummed like a lullaby, its water so clear it reflected dreams that hadn't been dreamt yet. Along its banks, tiny turtles slept in a line, shells rising and falling like waves. And then she saw her, a girl, no older than 5, curled in a cradle of leaves. Her hair was spun from twilight, and her blanket was stitched with stars. Her breathing was slow and even. Around her, the air shimmered. Lumi hovered closer. The girl was dreaming. Lumi could feel it in the air. It was like the moment before rain, when everything waits and listens. As Lumi drifted closer, she was gently pulled in, not by force, but by invitation. The girl's dream opened like a window, and Lumi passed through. Suddenly, she was in a world unlike anything she had seen from the sky or on Earth. It shimmered in ways that defied logic. The clouds were bubbles, the trees wore ribbons, giggles floated like butterflies, and the stars in the sky blinked with eyes. Lumi wasn't afraid. She was in awe. The girl ran through a field of cotton candy grass, chasing a balloon shaped like a bear. A fox in a tutu danced on a stone. The sun wore glasses and hummed a tune. And there, floating in the dream sky, was Lumi herself. The dream version of her was brighter, bigger, and trailed ribbons of light. The little girl looked up and waved. "Hello, my star," she called with a smile. Lumi felt something bloom inside her, like joy, like comfort, like being seen. She wanted to stay forever. But she knew dreams were not forever places. They were sacred, gentle spaces you visited and then let go of. As the dream began to fade, the girl's body stirred in the cradle of leaves, and Lumi found herself outside again, hovering gently in the real forest. Her glow was different now, warmer, filled. She looked to the fireflies. They hovered, waiting. And Lumi followed, deeper into the forest toward the next dream. The deeper Lumi followed the fireflies into the forest of sleep, the quieter the world became. The trees grew taller, older, their trunks wrapped in moss like scarves, their roots stretching across the path like sleepy arms. Everything moved slower here, like time itself had paused to take a nap. The fireflies hovered just ahead, their tiny lights blinking in a soft rhythm. Lumi followed without speaking, her glow matching their quiet beat. Each blink felt like a breath. In, out, and with every breath she felt herself drifting, not just through the forest, but into something softer, something deeper. The breeze curled gently around her, no longer playful but thoughtful, as if it carried secrets wrapped in silk. She passed a grove of trees where leaves hung upside down, rustling with the whispers of forgotten dreams. Somewhere above, a nightingale sang a song with no words, only feeling. And Lumi listened with every part of her. After a while, the fireflies slowed and floated in a slow circle around a small hill covered in wild lavender. At the top of the hill stood a tiny wooden house, no bigger than a large pumpkin. Its windows glowed faintly golden from within, and thin trails of steam puffed out of a crooked chimney, curling like sleepy sighs. Lumi drifted toward the house, her glow steady. The fireflies settled into the lavender, blinking like sleepy eyes closing one by one. She paused at the door. It was slightly open, as if waiting. "Come in, little one," came a voice from inside, soft as velvet and old as lullabies. Lumi floated gently through the doorway. Inside, the house was round and warm, with shelves carved into the walls and tiny cushions scattered like dreams on the floor. Everything smelled of chamomile and cinnamon, and something else she couldn't name but made her feel safe. In the center of the room sat an old badger, wrapped in a thick patchwork shawl. His fur was white around the face, and his eyes were deep and kind, rimmed in soft wrinkles from too many smiles. He stirred a cup of tea with a wooden spoon, humming a tune under his breath. "You've come a long way," he said without looking up. Lumi nodded. "I'm looking for dreams." The badger smiled slowly and set his spoon down. "Ah, I thought so. I felt your light falling the moment you left the sky." "You did?" "Oh, yes," he said, standing up carefully and waddling toward a shelf. Only a star who carries wonder in her glow would float down so gently. He pulled a dusty jar from the shelf and handed it to Lumi. Inside were tiny sparkles of light, no brighter than a breath, swirling like mist in morning sun. "What are these?" Lumi asked. "Dream crumbs," the badger said. "Little pieces of dreams that fell and stayed behind. Most folks never see them, but I've been collecting them for years." Lumi gazed at the jar, mesmerized. "They're beautiful." "They are," the badger agreed. "Some are made of hope. Some are made of wishes. Some are made of fear, too, but all are real, even the quiet ones." Lumi looked up. "Can dreams really be made of fear?" "Of course," he said gently. "Even stars tremble sometimes. Dreams help carry what's too big to hold when you're awake." He shuffled to the fireplace, where a pot bubbled gently. "Would you like some sleepy root stew? It's good for travelers of both light and limb." Lumi declined with a soft flicker of her glow, but thanked him. He sat down again slowly and took a sip of tea. "Do you know where dreams begin, little star?" "No," Lumi said honestly. The badger's eyes sparkled. "They begin in the quiet, in the space between thoughts, in the hush before sleep. It's where the heart speaks softly." Lumi hovered closer. "Is that where I came from?" He studied her for a long moment. You came from an old wish, I think. One made long ago by a child who wanted to never feel alone again. Wishes like that sometimes become stars." Lumi's glow deepened. "Then, am I a dream too?" He nodded slowly. "Maybe. Or maybe you're a dream's answer." Lumi didn't know what to say to that, but she felt the warmth of it settle inside her. The badger leaned back and looked at the ceiling. It was painted with constellations, each star carefully dotted in glowing ink. "When I was young," he said, "I used to dream I could fly. I'd float above the trees, over the rivers, through clouds that tasted like sugar. And when I woke, I wasn't sad. I was full." "Full of what?" Lumi asked. "Possibility," he whispered. "That maybe the world is bigger than what we see, and dreams remind us." Lumi stayed a little longer in the cozy house, listening to the creak of wood, the bubbling pot, the crackle of a fire that seemed to purr instead of burn. She didn't feel in a rush anymore. She was beginning to understand dreams weren't things you chased. They were things you felt, collected, remembered. Before she left, the badger handed her a tiny pouch. "For your journey," he said, "inside are 3 dream crumbs. Use them when you feel lost." Lumi took the pouch gently. "Thank you," he smiled again. "One more thing, little light. Don't forget, the best dreams aren't the ones you find. They're the ones you give." Lumi drifted back outside, the door closing softly behind her. The fireflies stirred, blinking again, ready to lead her onward. But the forest had changed once more. Ahead, the trees bent into arches, forming a tunnel of leaves lit from within by something gentle and gold. At the far end, Lumi saw a lake. Not just any lake, but one so still it mirrored the stars above perfectly. Except there were no stars in the sky just then, only in the water. Curious and calm, Lumi followed the fireflies down the path toward the lake of reflected dreams. She didn't know what she'd find there, but her glow was steady now. Her heart, if that's what she had, was listening more closely than ever. And the dreams waited, just ahead, quiet and wide and deep as the night. The lake shimmered in the distance like a bowl of melted moonlight. As Lumi floated closer, the hush grew heavier. Not heavy like a burden, but like a cozy blanket pulled up beneath a child's chin. It was a silence full of meaning, full of gentle waiting. The trees along the water's edge stood still as statues, their reflections perfectly mirrored below. Above the lake, the sky was cloudless and pale, a quiet canvas. But in the water, it was full of stars. Stars that twinkled, shifted, danced, but not like the real sky. These stars blinked like memories, like stories being told in light. And Lumi understood without anyone needing to tell her that these were dreams. Not the ones people were having right now, but the ones they had forgotten. Dreams that had been left behind in sleep, slipping like pebbles into the water. And here they stayed. She hovered just above the shoreline. Her reflection wavered, then settled, a soft little glow against the glowing lake. The air was warm here, warm like being held. It smelled faintly of violets, old books, and something like laughter remembered from long ago. She watched the water. One ripple moved across its surface, slow and deliberate. A small creature swam through it, barely breaking the stillness. It was a swan, pure white with feathers that looked like snowflakes gently stitched together. Its eyes were closed, and its wings only occasionally stirred to guide it forward. Lumi floated closer. "Hello?" The swan didn't open its eyes, but spoke all the same. Its voice was soft and slow, like honey sliding down a spoon. "Hello, little star. You've come to the Lake of Forgotten Dreams." "Are these dreams?" Lumi asked, peering into the rippling surface. "They were," said the swan. "Once dreamed, then lost but not gone, never truly gone. They live here, resting, waiting." "Waiting for what?" Lumi whispered. "To be remembered," the swan replied, "or to become something else. Sometimes a forgotten dream grows into a story. Sometimes it becomes a song. Sometimes it waits until someone needs it again." Lumi watched as one of the glowing stars in the water brightened, just for a moment, then faded. "How do you know?" "I've watched them," said the swan. "For a long, long time. I guide them gently. I keep the lake still." Lumi floated lower, almost touching the surface. The light beneath shimmered. "May I see one?" she asked. The swan nodded toward a patch of water near the shore. "That one's calling you." Lumi drifted over and peered into the ripples. Slowly, like fog clearing in the morning sun, an image appeared. It was a boy, perhaps 6 or 7, sleeping in a bunk bed. His blanket was blue, covered in stars. In his arms was a worn stuffed bear, patched at the seams. But the dream showed something else. He was flying. Not in a plane, not with wings, but floating. Drifting through a sky of spinning moons and jellybean planets, laughing as he soared past comets shaped like cotton candy. And beside him, glowing just as brightly, was a little star, Lumi. The dream faded as gently as it had come. Lumi blinked slowly. "He dreamed of me?" "He may not remember," said the swan, "but the dream remembers him, and you were there." "I didn't know dreams could do that," Lumi whispered. "They do more than you think," the swan said. "They stitch together pieces of heart, bits of memory, slivers of hope. They make what's impossible feel true." "Do they always disappear?" The swan shook its head. "Some stay, some return. Some wait for the right moment to be dreamt again." Lumi turned her light to another glowing star beneath the water. It flickered, then bloomed into a vision of a girl standing in a garden that hummed with butterflies made of music. Each time one landed, a new flower grew, singing a tiny tune. The girl laughed, twirled, and whispered a name into the air. Lumi. Again, her name. She floated back slightly, her glow trembling. "Why do so many dreams hold my name?" The swan opened its eyes at last. They were not like birds' eyes. They were old eyes, deep, soft, endless. "Because you are a piece of a wish," said the swan, "and wishes often become part of dreams. The children who whisper to stars, they remember you even if they don't know it." Lumi's light pulsed gently, not in surprise this time, but in understanding. The lake, the stars within, the faces and names, it was all part of something bigger. She was not just looking for dreams. She was part of them. "Can I help them?" she asked. "You already are," the swan replied. "Every night you shine, you remind someone to wish. Every night you glow, you tell someone their dream matters." Lumi looked again into the water, where a dream flickered, a ship made of feathers floating across a sky made of lullabies. She watched until it drifted away. "Will I remember these dreams?" she asked. "If you carry them gently," the swan said. "Not in your mind, in your light." Lumi hovered for a while longer, just watching. Each dream was a secret story, floating in its own quiet rhythm. Some were playful, full of laughter and color. Some were quiet, full of gentle longing. None were perfect, but all were beautiful. At last, she turned to the swan. "Thank you." The swan dipped its head and closed its eyes again. "Keep glowing." As Lumi rose above the lake, the fireflies gathered once more, blinking in a slow spiral around her. The breeze returned, curling under her like a ribbon, ready to carry her onward. And beyond the trees, another glow waited, a glow different from her own. It pulsed like a heartbeat, soft and golden. Not star, not moon, not sun. A dream still being dreamed. Lumi followed. The glow ahead pulsed with a steady rhythm, golden and gentle, like the soft flicker of a candle deep inside a blanket fort. Lumi floated toward it, drawn not by curiosity this time, but by something quieter, something that felt like calling and comfort wrapped into one. The fireflies around her blinked slower now, their light mirroring the steady beat of the glow ahead. The trees began to thin, their trunks parting to form an archway woven with flowering vines. The air was warmer here, sweet with the scent of milk and honey. Somewhere nearby, water trickled over smooth stones. Birds cooed sleepily in their nests, and the earth felt like it was humming a lullaby no one had written down. Beyond the archway, Lumi found a cradle. It sat in the middle of a clearing, surrounded by tiny white flowers that opened only at night. The cradle was carved from driftwood, soft at the edges from years of love. Inside, nestled in layers of blankets the color of dawn, was a baby. No older than a few months, the baby slept peacefully, his small chest rising and falling in rhythm with the glow. But this glow, it didn't come from the stars or the moon or even from Lumi. It came from the baby himself. His dream was still unfolding. Lumi hovered above, careful not to disturb the quiet. The baby's eyelids fluttered, and a soft murmur slipped from his lips. Not a word, not a cry, just a sound full of wonder. The kind of sound only dreams can shape. And then, as if gently invited, Lumi felt herself pulled again, not physically, but inward, into the dream. She passed through the air like a whisper and found herself in a different world, one not quite like the others. Everything here was soft. The sky was a soft shade of gold, the clouds plump and slow-moving like sleeping animals. Trees were made of yarn, their leaves velvety and curling like sleepy fingers. The ground was warm, not hot, just enough to make you feel like you'd never want to leave. The baby was there, in the dream, standing instead of lying, walking though he could not walk in the waking world. He waddled, giggling, through a meadow where butterflies were made of lullabies and teddy bears peeked out from behind trees made of pillows. Lumi floated nearby, unnoticed at first. She didn't mind. She liked watching this world unfold. A breeze brushed through, and the baby stopped. He looked up. He saw her. With wide eyes full of ancient softness, the kind only babies carry, he reached up his tiny hands and smiled. "Light," he said, not in speech, but in the quiet way dreams allow. Lumi drifted closer, letting her glow wrap around him like a gentle hug. He giggled, and the world giggled with him. The clouds bounced, the butterflies hummed, and the teddy bears clapped their plush paws in joy. Then the baby did something Lumi didn't expect. He placed a hand against her glow. And Lumi felt it. Not like touch, not like heat, but like connection, as if his tiny fingers reached through her light and found a part of her no one had ever touched before. Images flooded her, not of the dream, but of the feeling beneath it. The baby's love for his mother's voice, the safe warmth of milk, the fuzzy memory of heartbeat lullabies, the comfort of being held. They weren't thoughts, they were truths. Lumi didn't know how to hold them, but they entered her light and stayed there, gentle and real. The baby's dream shifted. He floated now, carried by invisible arms through the sky of his own imagination. The stars here were made of music. The moon smiled with a soft face, and the sun yawned like a sleepy lion. Lumi followed beside him, never leading, never leaving, just being, just shining. Then, just as gently, the dream began to fold. The sky dimmed, the clouds slowed to stillness, the teddy bears waved goodbye, and the butterflies curled into nests of cotton and hummed themselves to sleep. The baby's eyes closed in the dream world just as his real-world body turned slightly in the cradle. The glow around him steadied, then softened, no longer pulsing but resting. Lumi floated back out, returning to the forest clearing. For a while, she said nothing. She simply stayed there, hovering above the sleeping child, her own light quiet but full. She understood something now, not with her thoughts, but with her whole being. Dreams were not just stories or colors or strange places made from memory. They were emotion wrapped in silence. Feeling turned into shapes, trust turned into light. The breeze touched her again, lifting her slightly, and she knew it was time to move on. The fireflies gathered once more, circling her gently like old friends. They blinked slowly and then turned, leading her deeper into the forest, this time toward a soft orange glow that flickered like fire, but breathed like peace. Lumi followed, her light no longer searching. It was remembering. The orange glow shimmered through the forest like candlelight behind a curtain. It flickered and waved, but never harshly, never like a flame trying to consume. Instead, it moved like a heartbeat, like the warm pulse of a story being told for the 100th time. Lumi drifted silently behind the fireflies, her glow soft, steady, thoughtful. The air had changed. It was thicker now, richer, as if each breath was steeped in old magic and old love. The trees here no longer stood tall and towering. Instead, they bowed gently, leaning toward one another, their trunks forming arches and canopies, like they were listening together. Beneath one such arch stood a small wooden cottage, round and low, its roof covered in soft moss that glowed faintly under the starlight. Wisps of smoke curled from its chimney, and from the windows, the golden-orange light spilled outward, melting into the air like honey in warm tea. Lumi hovered outside for a moment, listening. Inside, she could hear something. Not music, not a voice, but rhythm, the sound of a story. She passed through the wooden frame like mist, entering a room filled with the smell of cinnamon, candle wax, and something sweetly old, like pages from a favorite book. A woman sat in a rocking chair near the hearth. Her hair was silver, piled in soft waves on her head, and her eyes were closed, though her lips moved slowly. In her lap lay an open book, one hand resting lightly on the page, the other stroking a cat curled on a blanket beside her. She was reading. Not aloud, but not silently either. She was reading in a way only the heart could hear, and all around her, dreams gathered. Lumi could see them, small glowing wisps circling the room, each a flicker of someone else's thought, someone else's memory, drawn to the story like moths to a nightlight. One glowed blue and whispered of ships on glassy seas, another shone lavender and hummed the scent of lilac fields. Still another flickered silver and sang nothing but silence. A quiet so deep, Lumi's own glow dimmed slightly just to listen. The woman turned a page. She did not open her eyes, but her voice, soft as thread, began to drift outward. Only a whisper, but full of weight. "There once was a child," she murmured, "who believed the stars were boats sailing across the night." Lumi floated closer. The cat opened one eye and blinked at her, then stretched and tucked its tail under its chin. It wasn't bothered by her presence. Perhaps it even expected her. "The child waited by the window," the woman continued, "hoping one night a star would land and take them away, just for a little while, just to see what dreams were made of." Lumi felt her glow shift, just a flicker, but something inside her stirred. Was she hearing her own story? The woman smiled softly, though her eyes remained closed. That child grew up, forgot the wish, forgot the window, forgot the waiting. She paused, her voice thinning like mist. But wishes are patient, and stars remember. Lumi was certain now. This wasn't coincidence. She moved closer, and the room seemed to lean with her. The candlelight flickered in rhythm with her glow. The story in the air thickened. Then, the woman's eyes opened. They were deep gray, storm-colored, but soft with time. She looked directly at Lumi, not startled, not surprised. "I wondered when you'd come," she said gently. Lumi hovered, uncertain, yet unafraid. "You're looking for dreams," said the woman. "But they've been looking for you too." "Why?" Lumi whispered, though she didn't speak aloud. The woman reached out and turned another page. The book in her lap wasn't filled with words. It was filled with light, glowing sketches, faint silhouettes, shapes of dreams caught in ink and time. "Because you are more than starlight," said the woman. "You are a keeper of stories, a whisper of old hopes." She lifted the book gently and held it toward Lumi. Inside, Lumi saw a picture, drawn not with pencil but with memory. It was her, falling from the sky, floating gently, eyes wide with wonder. The woman nodded. "You came from a wish, but not just one child's, many." She turned the page. Another picture, Lumi beside the rabbit under the leaf, then the willow tree, the dreamy fawn, the swan by the lake, the baby in the cradle. Each memory shimmered with its own color. "You've gathered dreams," said the woman. "You've listened, and now you're beginning to hold them." Lumi pulsed faintly, unsure what to say. "But what do I do with them?" The woman closed the book gently, like tucking a child into bed. "You share them," she said. "Not all at once, not loudly, but in glimmers, in glow, in quiet moments when someone needs to remember what wonder feels like." The fire crackled softly. The cat purred. The book gave off the scent of old leaves and twilight. "But I'm small," Lumi whispered. "How can I hold so much?" The woman smiled. "Because you're light. Light does not carry with weight. It carries with presence." A gust of warm wind drifted through the cottage, though no window was open. It smelled of forests and fireflies, of the road still waiting. The woman looked toward the door. There is one more dream, one you must find. It's waiting where sky meets earth. You'll know it when you see it. Lumi lingered a moment longer, taking in the golden room, the hush of pages, the presence of a life wrapped in stories. Then she turned. As she passed through the doorway, she felt the weight of her glow, not as heaviness, but as fullness. Inside her now were dreams and feelings and fragments of quiet truth. The fireflies gathered again, swirling more slowly now, gently, as if the air itself was sighing. And in the distance, beyond the edges of the forest, a new light shimmered. But this light was different. It blinked, it called, and it waited. Lumi followed the blinking light as it shimmered just beyond the forest's edge, rising and falling like a distant echo, like the heartbeat of something that had been asleep for a very long time. The trees grew sparser with each gentle drift of her glow, and the moss underfoot faded into soft, silver-dusted grass. A hush settled across the land, not empty but sacred, as if every sound had been tucked under a blanket to rest. She floated over a quiet hill where the wind no longer hummed but listened. Each blade of grass stood still, each leaf held its breath. In the distance, the light blinked again, once, slowly, then again, as if it were unsure, as if it were remembering how to be seen. Lumi drifted closer. At the bottom of the hill was an old swing hanging from the single arm of a crooked tree. The swing swayed, though there was no breeze. Its rope creaked, soft as a lullaby. And beneath the tree, on a patch of worn earth, sat a boy. He looked to be about 8. His knees were pulled to his chest, his arms wrapped around them, his chin resting between. He wasn't crying, but he wasn't asleep. He stared out at the horizon, where the stars kissed the earth, blinking just above the hills like sleepy eyes. The blinking light, Lumi now saw, was not far away anymore. It was inside him. It pulsed faintly in his chest, beneath his sweater, soft and uncertain. A little glow, trying to stay alive. Lumi approached slowly, letting her own glow dim just a little so as not to startle him. She had learned by now, some dreams needed quiet. The boy didn't look at her, but he spoke. "You're late." His voice was steady but tired, like someone who had been waiting too long without knowing what for. Lumi paused in the air. "I didn't know you were waiting," he shrugged. "Maybe I didn't either, but I knew someone would come." Lumi hovered closer, and the boy finally turned his head. His eyes were dark, full of long silences, but they softened when they met her light. "You're smaller than I imagined," he said. "I'm still growing," Lumi replied gently. The boy almost smiled. "Me too." He looked back toward the hills. "This is where my dreams stopped." Lumi blinked slowly. "Stopped?" He nodded. "I used to dream all the time. At night, in class, during car rides. My dreams were loud and silly and full of colors. They used to feel like fireworks and feathers." He touched his chest lightly over the dim glow. "Then things got quiet. I stopped seeing things when I closed my eyes. My dreams turned gray. Some nights I just didn't dream at all." Lumi's glow flickered. "Were you sad?" "Not at first," the boy said. "I thought maybe it just happens when you grow up, but then I missed them. I missed the stories in my head. I missed the flying. I missed the me that could laugh even when the world was heavy." He leaned back against the tree. "So I came here where I used to dream the most, and I waited." "For what?" Lumi asked. The boy looked at her, eyes wide and quiet. "For someone to remind me." Lumi pulsed gently. "I don't have answers, but I have pieces." The boy tilted his head. "I've gathered them," she said. "From a rabbit who dreams of strawberry carrots, from a tree who remembers feelings, from a baby who dreams in colors, from a swan who keeps forgotten dreams floating, from a story keeper who reads from books filled with light." She floated down until she hovered at the boy's chest level. "And from you," she added. "Me?" he whispered. "You're still dreaming," Lumi said. "Even if it's quiet, even if it hurts, even if it's just a single flicker." She reached into the pouch the old badger had given her and drew out one of the dream crumbs. It shimmered softly, this one a pale blue, the color of early morning sky. She held it out. The boy hesitated. Then slowly he reached for it. The moment his fingers touched the dream crumb, it melted into him like sugar in warm milk. He closed his eyes and breathed. Lumi felt it before she saw it, the change. The glow in his chest brightened, no longer blinking but beating, steady, soft, real. Then around them the hill began to change. The grass grew taller, greener. The tree above them rustled with a sound like laughter. The stars overhead blinked faster, leaning in, and the boy opened his eyes. "I remember," he said. "Remember what?" "My favorite dream," he whispered. "The one where I build a house in the clouds and everyone I love can visit. There's a trampoline made of jelly, a door that leads to the ocean, and my dog, the one who's gone now, he's there too, and he talks." He looked at Lumi, his eyes brighter now. "That dream made me believe anything could happen." "Then it still can," she said. He stood slowly brushing grass from his pants. "Will I lose it again?" "Maybe," Lumi said, "but dreams don't vanish. They just sleep, like seeds." He nodded. Then he looked at her, really looked, and asked, "Will you remember me?" "I carry everything I've seen," Lumi answered. The boy reached out and touched her glow just for a second. Not to hold her, not to keep her, just to thank her. And then he turned, walked toward the swing, and sat gently. As he rocked, the stars above swirled, and one of them, just one, shot across the sky like a smile. Lumi rose quietly, her own light full, no longer searching. The fireflies surrounded her one last time, and in the sky far above, something was changing. Something was calling her home. The sky above stretched wider now, deeper, darker, but not with fear. It was the darkness of velvet, of safety, of night cradling the world in gentle arms. Stars blinked more slowly, more deliberately, as if they too were watching, listening, waiting. Lumi drifted upward from the hill, leaving the boy and the swing and the soft hum of renewed dreams behind her. She rose not in a straight line, but in a spiral, slow and graceful, like a feather riding a current of warm air. Her glow shimmered with new colors, faint ribbons of pale gold, deep violet, and a blue as soft as breath. These colors hadn't been there before. They came from the dreams she'd touched, the feelings she'd gathered, the truths she'd held. She was no longer just a little star, she was a story. The fireflies had vanished now, their part done. The wind had grown still, bowing in quiet farewell. And Lumi knew, without words, without question, that her journey was almost over. She floated higher, past the tallest trees whose branches reached like sleepy fingers into the sky, past the clouds that sighed and rolled over in their slumber, past the hush of the earth's breath. And then, far above everything, she saw it. The place where sky meets sky. Not space. Not the wide emptiness she had known before, but a threshold. It shimmered like glass, curved and endless, rippling like the surface of a still pond just touched by a breeze. This was not a place of stars. This was something beyond them, a gate of light. She hesitated at its edge. Here, everything was quiet again, but it wasn't the quiet of loneliness or loss. It was the stillness of understanding. The soft hush that comes when a lullaby ends, but the feeling remains. Lumi floated before the threshold, pulsing gently. Then it opened, not outward, not inward. It unfolded, like a dream. Light poured from it, not blinding, not loud. It was the kind of light that reminded you of something you'd never truly forgotten. A warm hand, a mother's hum, a wish made with eyes closed tight. She passed through. The world inside was not like anything she had ever seen. It wasn't a place. It was a feeling. Everything shimmered, not with color, but with memory. The dreams she had gathered drifted beside her, each one glowing faintly, weaving around her like threads. The bunny with his strawberry carrot dreams. The fawn's flower song. The baby's soft wonder. The lake's forgotten visions. The boy's quiet ache and bright return. They were all here, and so were others. Thousands, millions. Dreams from children who had never looked at the sky but still believed in stars. Dreams from those who had lost hope and found it again. Dreams still unfolding. She floated through this space of stories, this sea of softness, her glow steady, her heart, if she had one, open wider than it had ever been. And then from within the light came a presence. Not a shape, not a voice, but a knowing. The kind that doesn't speak but fills. It wrapped around her gently like arms, like wings, like song. "You have gathered them," it said. Not in words, in warmth. Lumi pulsed in response. "I only wanted to understand, and now you do." The presence guided her to the center of the space. There, suspended in stillness, was a single drop of light. It glowed more gently than anything she'd seen. A dream that had not yet been dreamed. One left behind in a whisper, one waiting for a bearer. Lumi reached toward it, unsure if her glow was worthy, but the light moved to her. It joined her, entered her. And for the first time, Lumi felt full. Not heavy, full. She didn't grow larger. She grew clearer. She understood. This was the first dream. The very first one, the dream that began all stars, the wish of love without condition, of safety and silence, of being held by light even when lost in dark. She was part of it now. She had always been. Lumi drifted still for a while, letting the feeling soak into her very glow. Then from somewhere far, far below, she felt it. A tug, not a pull, a calling. A child somewhere on earth had just closed their eyes, not with fear, not with tears, but with a question, a wonder. Are you there, little star? And Lumi, full of dreams, full of light, full of stories gathered like petals in the hush of night, turned back toward the earth. It was time to return. Lumi descended slowly, the way a lullaby falls into silence at the end of a long night. Her glow no longer flickered. It flowed, steady and sure, like a river of light carrying something precious. She carried not just her own glow anymore, but the shimmer of every dream she had visited, every feeling she had held, every whisper she had listened to. The earth below waited quietly. It was deep night, the kind where even the wind pauses to listen, where the sky stretches its arms around rooftops and treetops and soft cheeks tucked under blankets. Windows were dark. Lamplight had faded, and one by one, hearts had begun to speak their secret languages, the gentle rhythm of dreams. Lumi passed through the clouds without stirring them. They barely noticed her touch, as if they already knew her, as if they had always known. She drifted down past the mountain peaks, through forests curled in moonlight, over rivers curled in sleep. And then she found the child. A little girl, no more than 6, nestled in a bed full of soft creatures, stuffed animals with tired eyes and mended seams. Her blanket rose and fell with her breath. One hand curled near her cheek, the other rested on a notebook lying open on the bed beside her. Drawings filled the page. Wobbly stars, a small figure floating in the sky, and a sentence written in careful, crooked letters. If I close my eyes, maybe a star will come. Lumi hovered near the window. It was slightly open, just enough for her light to slip through. Inside, the room felt like waiting, the kind of waiting that comes not from loneliness, but from believing, hoping. The air was thick with it. Lumi floated closer, letting her glow stretch out slowly, like a warm hand reaching for another. The girl stirred, not awake, not fully, but sensing something. Her eyelashes fluttered. Her lips moved, and a sound, no louder than a sigh, escaped. You came. Lumi drifted beside her pillow, hovering over the drawings in the notebook. The girl dreamt with her eyes closed and her heart wide open, and Lumi entered. Inside the dream, they stood in a field of stars. The stars were not in the sky. They were flowers. Each bloomed with light, their petals flickering with old lullabies and remembered laughter. The field stretched on forever, but not in a way that felt lonely. It felt infinite in the same way a hug can feel endless when you need it most. The girl stood barefoot in pajamas covered in clouds, her hair curling like the wind had kissed it. You really came, she said again, her voice sure now. Lumi floated beside her, soft and quiet. I used to talk to the sky, the girl said. I told it things no one else knew, about how sometimes I feel brave and sometimes I don't, about how I want to fly, but I don't know where, about how I miss someone but don't know how to say it. She bent and touched one of the glowing starflowers. It pulsed gently beneath her fingers. They listened, she said. But tonight I wanted someone to answer. Lumi's glow deepened. She didn't speak, stars rarely do, but she let her light fill the air, weaving around the girl like a soft blanket of shimmer and hush. I asked for a star, the girl said. Not a big one, just one who could stay for a little while. Lumi stayed. Together they wandered the field. Each flower they passed hummed a dream, the kind of dreams children only tell the night. One held the smell of pancakes and soft laughter, another shimmered with the rhythm of a swing set in summer. A third whispered a song without words, just feeling. The girl paused beside one flower that glowed a pale gold. This one's mine, she said. It's the dream I keep having. I'm on a boat. But it's not in the water, it's in the stars. And there are lights hanging from the sails and music in the wind. She looked at Lumi, and you're there, but I didn't know your name. Lumi drifted closer. The dream unfolded again. They were on the boat now, floating through a sky filled with gentle planets and soft breezes. The sails flapped without making sound. Bells tinkled from the ropes. There were no maps, no need for one. Where are we going? The girl asked. And Lumi answered, not in words, but in warmth. Wherever your heart needs. They drifted for a long time, wrapped in stillness, riding a current made of peace. The girl leaned back against a pillow made of moon dust, her eyes growing heavy in the dream. Will you stay? Lumi pulsed once, a soft yes. Even when I wake up? Yes. Even if I forget you? Yes. The girl's eyelids closed in the dream just as her real body curled a little deeper beneath her blanket. Her fingers, resting on the edge of the notebook, twitched once. A smile flickered across her face, and Lumi floated upward again through the window, back into the night. Above the house, she paused, her glow brighter now, fuller. Not from power, but from presence. She had given something, but she had also received. And somewhere inside her now, wrapped in the folds of every dream she had touched, was a soft truth. She was no longer just a star. She was a keeper of wishes, a whisper of dreams, a little piece of light that remembered. Lumi rose above the rooftops, past chimneys puffing their last sighs of warmth, past the glowing windows of other sleeping rooms, past quiet courtyards and curled-up cats, until the world below became a hush of shadows and silver. The sky opened around her, vast and waiting, but it no longer felt empty. It felt known, familiar. Like a home you finally understand after returning with stories of where you've been. As she floated higher, the stars noticed her. They blinked, one by one, as if stirred from their stillness. First, those closest, soft glows flickering in curiosity, then the ones farther out, watching from the dark folds of night. The constellations that had once played without her now leaned slightly inward, shimmering in acknowledgement. And then the moon turned his face. He had been quiet through her journey, distant and steady as always. But now he rotated slowly, his great round eye blinking with recognition. "Little one," the moon said in a voice like wind through snow, "you've returned." Lumi pulsed gently, not to answer, to greet. The moon looked at her more closely, his glow dimming just a touch, as if squinting in wonder. "You are not the same," he said. Lumi drifted beside him, her light trailing threads of soft color, pale gold, warm blue, quiet pink. She carried the touch of the forest, the hush of the lake, the breath of babies, the ache of memory, the flutter of renewed hope. I listened, her glow seemed to say. I gathered, I held. The moon's face curved in a slow smile. And now? Lumi rose slightly as if lifted by something more than gravity. She turned slowly, facing the earth below again. Tiny specks of light flickered across the continents. Street lamps, fireflies, reflected stars in windows, but also dreams. She could see them now. Not clearly, not completely, but enough. Little pulses of glow inside children's rooms, beneath covers, beneath curls of hair. In notebooks, in drawings, in hearts, everywhere, dreams. The moon tilted thoughtfully. You are no longer only made of light. No, Lumi glowed, I am made of listening, and of longing. Yes, and of love. Lumi pulsed brighter. The stars around her began to move, not fast, not noisy, but slow and graceful, like dancers waking in the middle of a dream. They shifted to make space, a circle opening softly in the sky, and at the center of it, a space formed, a new place, a space for her. Not high above, but between sky and earth, between sleep and waking, between wonder and memory. Lumi settled into it, not with finality, but with understanding. She no longer needed to chase dreams. She would become a keeper of them. Her glow now pulsed with rhythm, gentle, calm, reassuring. And from below on the earth, turning slowly in her gaze, 1,000 children closed their eyes. Some whispered wishes, some just breathed, some simply let go, trusting the dark to be kind. And one by one, Lumi answered, not with words, but with presence. She drifted above them, a little star now wrapped in more than starlight, a soft collection of stories, of hopes, of forgotten lullabies and remembered warmth. No longer lost, no longer searching, just shining, just staying, just there. So whenever a child whispered to the night, "Are you there, little star?" a glow would pulse above their window, small, still, true.